Hey Clashers, on the 1st September, your training troop bar is going to look like this, which means no event troops anymore. And the Clan War League is around the corner as well, and this is why we're going to take a look at the top 5 strategies without event troops. We're going to use a strategy score, which is going to be combining the difficulty of a strategy and as well the strength of the strategy. Because strength is more important, it is going to be multiplied by 2. The higher the difficulty score, the easier the strategy. The higher the power score, the stronger the strategy. Let's make sure that you understand this with an example, which is going to be the number 6 position strategy, which is the fireball with the super witches. This one has a difficulty score of 4. Because the fireball, setting that up is not as easy as some people might think, and make sure everything sticks together. This is why it has the difficulty score of a 4. Next one is the strength score, and that is a 7 in my opinion. If you can master this, if you can get consistent fireballs, super witches are incredibly strong. And this, if you combine this, is going to result in a score of 18. But now, let's get into the top 5. The number 5 strategy, in my opinion, is right now the normal game, the Super Hog Riders. With the Royal Champion Charge, you have a really solid opening. Royal Champion Charge is always a solid opening, but especially with those Super Hog Riders. After that, nice hero dive into the Super Hog Riders, and you're good to go versus pretty much all of those different bases out there. But obviously, there's some better versions out there of strategies, and the number 4 position is going to be this Super Yeti. You can combine this with the Fireball. Some people prefer that. I really like the Royal Champion Charge to really keep that Eternal Tome for the core, and you can just combine it with a lot of different options. I like to use the King for the funnel on the outside, and I like to use the Troop Thrower to really make sure that those Super Yetis do not really care about their weakness, and that is walls. With the Troop Thrower, you just keep pushing through, and you're going to overwhelm every single base out there. They're tanky, they're great to use, really strong. The number 3 army composition is actually the Warden Charge with Rocket Loons. The important thing about this strategy is that there is a million versions out there. This right here is my current favorite version. Some people prefer more Furnace, some people like to use no Furnace whatsoever, some people like to use Druid. By the way, shout out to Dark, like a really good fireball attacker. He likes to use Druid, so there is no right or wrong in my opinion. You can just go with whatever fits your personal playstyle the best. Because some people like to have a heavy commitment to the hero dive, which is the king and the queen in later stages. Some people like to go with completely different approaches, where for me, I really like to force the Flameflinger, so I'm having a less big of a focus on my hero dive, and this is why I personally do not use the Druids. But again, there is no right or wrong. The key of this strategy though is a Warden Charge, which is trying to deliver a fireball into a really important area of the base, will take down key defenses, but at the same time as well, dealing a lot of damage. Those two things are the key components to a good fireball, because if you take away a lot of hit points off the base, this makes sure that you're not going to time fail. The next thing is a Flamefinger working alongside the Warden or around somewhere in the base. Make sure that you're getting a lot of value in the beginning. As soon as the Warden is going to decide for a direction, for us right now, top side, bottom side, wherever, we can then start with our heroes, which means King and Queen. You want to deploy them away from the Warden, otherwise you're going to run into time issues, which is never a great thing. Which means, for our case, we're now waiting after the fireball. Is he going to go for the top side? Is he going to go back to the monolith? It seems like he's sticking to the top side, which means we can get ready with the heroes from the bottom side. So, King and Queen. As I said earlier, you could support that hero push now a little bit further with like Druids or more Ice Golems. Some people prefer the Siege Barracks over the Flameflingers to support that hero dive even further. And as I said earlier, this is really personal preference and kind of how you want to utilize this strategy. Make sure that you're finding your own way. Some people even use like a Yeti to really make the Flameflinger even stronger. So, key message for this number 3 positioned strategy is for sure, find your personal way on how it works the best for you. The core of this though is the Warden Charge with the support of the Rocket Loons. The reason why you bring those Rocket Loons is because they're so versatile. You can use them as funneling, as sniping down buildings, sniping down areas, and supporting the key component of the strategy, which is the heroes. Those are the star of the show, and the Rocket Loons are there to support them. If the heroes are strong enough, you don't even need that support like I do right here, with swagging the majority of my rocket loons the same as the Royal Champion. But if you have played this strategy once, you know why I gave it a difficulty score of 2, but at the same time, I think this attack clearly shows why I gave it a power score of 10. The number 2 position, I feel like I was not too fair in the last couple of strategy rankings to this strategy. The Dragons. And I think a lot of people were saying and were predicting the Dragons would suffer a lot from the Eternal Tome rework. But to be honest, and I mean, I already said that the Eternal rework wouldn't really impact that strategy too much, but it did even impact it way less than people thought. So yeah, this strategy for sure is deserved still on the number 2 position. It is incredibly strong, and it's still as well relying on that Royal Champion charge, which means you want to have the Royal Champion diving into the base, taking down key components. If I'm completely honest here, if you get the Royal Champion close to the core, or even in the core, you're good to go. It's pretty much a guaranteed triple. But even if the Royal Champion stays on the outside, just takes down like half of the base, it doesn't matter. It's completely fine. And after this attack then, you have 2 different phases as a follow-up. The first one consists of either the king or the queen with the siege barracks, and the second one is then the dragon part. For the king or the queen part, this is now a really important thing. In Legends, some people really like to bring the giant arrow on the Archer Queen if you're facing those invisibility core bases, which can otherwise kind of give you a hard time. But if you're just going for raw power and use the Archer Queen, then you should for sure go with the Healer Puppet and as well the action figure. This 2 combined is just crazy strong, especially with the siege barracks. It's going to take down so much of a base. And the important key thing and why I mentioned as 2 different phases compared to the dragons is that you want to deploy them away from your dragons. If you're having a Royal Champion charge like this, you are pretty much creating 2 different openings of a base, or 2 different pretty much starting points for your troops. In our case, this bottom compartment or bottom corner, and then the left side. Those are 2 starting points which are now isolated from each other. On one of those starting points, you're starting with your king or queen with the siege barracks, and on the other side, you're starting with your dragons. You want to start on that side, which is heavier, which is not as easy to get through with your dragons, and then on the other side, you want to start with your siege barracks and as well your hero of choice. I personally just think the queen is way stronger, especially with the healer equipment and the action figure. It's just so much power. But again, as I said, some pros as well prefer the king, and that's completely fine. Again, make sure that you're testing it and find your personal preference. But either way, you're going to crush those bases. As well, an equipment which is going to be highly discussed, as always, is the Dark Crown. If you're playing in normal mode, just looking at the raw stats, it is by fact better than the Henchman Puppet. The difference though is not really that big. So if you're a free-to-play player, I would not recommend you putting ores into the Dark Crown. I would only recommend using the Dark Crown if you're actually having this equipment already upgraded. Level 24 is the starting point where you can really use this. Otherwise, before, you should just go with the Henchman Puppet. In hard mode, in my opinion, I just think the Henchman Puppet outperforms the Dark Crown, but again, even pros prefer in that mode the Dark Crown. So that's again, personal preference, I guess. But let's move on to the number 1 strategy. And this one is the Root Rider with the Royal Champion charge. The crazy thing here is that there's by now so many different versions out there. The one which I created like really early on with the Minion Prince, for example, to have more DPS with the Root Riders, or for example, the double overgrowth version. Even there's a million different compositions with more Valkyries, less Valkyries. This specific army composition is from a content creator called Ace, who has used this last season and only had 3 fails over the entire season, which is really impressive. If you want to watch more than just this one example attack with the strategy and you really want to get into this, I will link his YouTube channel down below. By the way, the same as Dark, who's like the Warden charge attacker. But let's get back to the strategy to really give you a quick rundown of how you utilize this strategy, or the strategy of Royal Champion charge with Root Riders in general. What you're trying to do is to set up the pathing. The reason why the Royal Champion charge with Root Riders are synergizing so well is because both are just attacking defenses. The big difference here compared to Super Yetis, for example, because individually they might be stronger than Root Riders, but the big difference here is that the pathing setup of a Royal Champion charge and taking down all of those defenses is just so much easier and more straightforward. Because we have cleared up the far left side, and even if there would be storages inside, We don't care because our root riders are going from defense to defense. You want to have the healers on them, you want to have the queen as well, the king on the outside. This is why we're using the snake bracelet. And then we have the troop thrower again, making sure that there's non-stop support for our root riders. Support in different ways. Obviously the troops itself, which we had inside the clan castle like pestloons, but as well as some giants and even some other smaller troops who can really nicely tank big defenses like Monolith or, for example, the Merc Rico cannon. For us, on this attack specifically, because those Invis core bases are so popular, especially at the beginning of a legend season, you want to overgrowth that once, maybe even twice. It really depends on how quick your troops are. But typically once, and then really push your troops into their core, because at that point you just pop the healing tome. You have the rage gem in here as well, and you're good to go. If you have the eternal tome, you can pop it at that position as well. But if you use 2 overgrowth, you have that protection already for your troops. So you don't need the eternal tome usually. But rage tower bases are for sure sometimes a struggle. So you need to really learn how to master this strategy to overpower them, and do not struggle because you do not have that invincibility of the eternal tome. On this one, I think you can clearly see again why the strategy is right now the #1 strategy in the game for over half a year now. It is incredibly powerful. With the Royal Chamber charge, you can set up the pathing perfectly, and it's deserving the #1 spot. Just make sure that you're finding your personal sweet spot when it comes down to spells and different troop compositions, but the Royal Chamber charge with root riders in general is just a powerhouse either way. And that's it. The top 5 strategies for the moment, as soon as those event troops are gone, and as soon as the Clan War League is going to start. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have no bases just yet for the Clan War League, make sure that you're checking out yesterday's video, because I have uploaded some bases for you. And otherwise, I will see you guys back tomorrow with the next class video. Until then, see ya, and bye-bye.